For the first minute of this story, I want to take you back to one of the most confusing chapters in wartime engineering, a chapter that still frustrates modern materials scientists today. During the Second World War, soldiers fought through winters so harsh that vehicles froze solid, weapons malfunctioned from ice buildup, and supply lines collapsed under blizzards. Yet, scattered through field notes, diaries and quartermaster logs is a repeated observation about a simple heating trick that shouldn't have worked as well as it did. Troops from mountain units, reconnaissance teams and long-range patrols made the same claim again and again. A specific heat layer, one that looked unimpressive and felt crude, produced sustained warmth far beyond what its weight and construction predicted. Officers dismissed it as exaggeration. Engineers recorded the data but couldn't replicate the results in controlled conditions. Even decades later, researchers still debate why it performed so reliably in the field but inconsistently in laboratories. This wasn't some mystical technology. It was a material built from the most ordinary fibers available during wartime scarcity. Yet it somehow trapped heat with an efficiency that defied every calculation of the period. The strange heating ability came from a wartime fiber mat that shouldn't have been effective. The trick centered around a multi-layered fiber mat issued mostly to specialized units. At a glance, it resembled a rough blend of felt, cellulose, and scrap textile fibers. Nothing about it should have offered exceptional thermal retention. It was thin, light, and cheaply produced. Yet soldiers discovered that when the mat was placed beneath a bedroll, a coat, or even a simple ground sheet, the heat retention increased dramatically. Troops on the Eastern Front described sleeping through sub-zero temperatures that had immobilized entire units, crediting the fiber mat as the only reason they avoided frostbite. What's puzzling is that the mat's insulating value, when tested decades later, did not appear extraordinary under normal conditions. Standard conductivity tests couldn't replicate the field performance. But under direct body pressure and exposure to moisture, conditions common in combat, the mat behaved differently. It dense-packed into a structure that prevented conductive heat loss so effectively that its real-world warmth exceeded that of thicker woolen gear. The material's unusual performance seems tied to compression, moisture, and micro-air layering. Modern engineers still debate why the mat's heat retention improved once exposed to moisture, when most insulating materials lose efficiency. The leading theory is that the chaotic blend of fibers created microchannels that trapped air even when the surface felt damp. Those channels reorganized under body weight, forming a semi-sealed insulating grid that slowed heat escape from both sides. In normal lab tests, equipment applies even sterile pressure. But soldiers use these mats on mud, snow, and uneven ground. The irregular compression apparently activated the material in a way machinery doesn't mimic. If you've ever worked with wool, felt, you know it stays warm even when wet, because its fibers interlock tightly enough to block rapid heat exchange. The Second World War mat took this principle further by mixing synthetic and organic fibers, creating zones of varying density. These zones reduced heat conduction more effectively when the fibers were swollen with moisture. Survivalists today unintentionally rediscover this when using layered felt, old carpet padding, or thick saddle pads. Under the combined conditions of pressure, dampness and body heat, they begin to insulate dramatically better than when dry on a clean test bench. Units stationed in mountain regions cut theirs into perfectly fitted floor pieces inside stone huts. Long-range patrols travelling by skis often carried only 2 warming items, a wool blanket and this mat, trusting it more than any thick bedding. If you want to apply this principle today, focus on your ground barrier first when camping or building a cold-weather shelter. A dense, insulating layer beneath you will outperform additional blankets above you every time. You can use wool felt, compressed plant fibre mats, or even repurposed textile pads. The key is density, stability, and resistance to compression, exactly the properties this lost World War II design exploited. The mat's inconsistency in laboratory settings still confuses modern researchers. Scientists who analyze surviving samples have noted a strange paradox. The mats appear to insulate far better in field simulations than in controlled tests. One explanation is that the material degrades in storage and no longer reflects its wartime condition. Another is that heat generation from a real human body interacts differently with the fibres than electronic testing equipment does. A few researchers even proposed that chemical treatments used during wartime production, dyes, anti-mold agents and preservatives, altered fibre structure in a way modern reproductions cannot replicate. Whatever the reason, the field reports remain consistent. Troops described waking warm in conditions that should have caused hypothermia. Some officers even noted that a single mat sometimes kept 2 soldiers adequately warm when they slept close together. This detail has practical value today. When insulation fails, pairing bodies and sharing a dense, non-compressible ground layer dramatically improves survival odds. It is one of the simplest but most overlooked tricks in cold-weather fieldcraft. The real value of this World War II heat trick is not in recreating the exact mat. Its production methods, fibre blends, and chemical treatments are difficult to replicate accurately. The value lies in understanding the principles that made it effective. Moisture does not always eliminate insulation. Dense fibre structures can outperform thick, fluffy materials. Compression can activate thermal properties instead of destroying them. And most importantly, survival in cold weather starts beneath the body, not above it. If you want to apply this lesson practically, build your cold weather system the same way World War II units unknowingly did. Begin with a dense ground barrier, add a moisture managing layer above it, and finish with your warmth layer. The order matters. This method works with both natural and modern materials, and the improvement in warmth is immediate and measurable. If you enjoy deep dives into forgotten historical technologies and the practical survival techniques they still offer, make sure you subscribe and share this episode. There are countless overlooked innovations from the past waiting to be rediscovered.